The South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has now reduced the review period for COVID-19 vaccines to 3 months. The regulator announced today that a decision on the Sinovac vaccine application will be made soon. It also says that the Sputnik application is expected to move quickly once more data is received. For more on this development, we're joined by CEO Dr. Boitumelo Semete Makokotlela. Of course, a very good evening to you, Doctor, and thank you so much for your time. So what exactly does this mean in terms of the speed of the vaccine rollout, that the review period has been dropped to 3 months?
No, thank you. And also just to clarify that this position that we have taken around the review of COVID-19 products actually is a decision we took last year already when we were hit by the pandemic. And if you remember last year, a large part of the focus was the diagnostic tests. It was the PPE, the ventilators, etc. So this is not a new decision. It's what we had made since last year around COVID. So we've been working expeditiously.
Obviously, again, I asked the question of the speed of the vaccine rollout. How does this aid and make sure that vaccinations are happening at a faster rate than what we're seeing now?
Yeah, so I mean, as the regulator, we're not involved in the actual rollout. Our role is to ensure that the vaccines that would be utilized in the country are available. And so, you know, the reason why we're expediting this process is that the country has as many options as possible of selecting a range of vaccines.
Are the options that you're finding at the moment that are, of course, in review, I'm talking Sinovac and Sputnik, it's saying that it's going to be, the decision will be made soon. Do we have a timeline? How soon is soon?
Yeah, so I mean, on Sinovac, you know, we're quite advanced in terms of the review. We've had numerous engagements with the applicant, and we hope that a decision will be communicated in the coming days. With Sputnik, and we've again have been working quite closely with the applicant, and you know, this week we received further data that we are reviewing with our technical experts. And as we indicated last week, we received an application for Sinovac, and so that also has started.
Doctor, I imagine being thorough is of great importance, especially when you're dealing with a vaccine that is supposed to be coming out and assisting an entire nation. What exactly goes into making sure that the decision that you make on a particular vaccine is the right one?
Yeah, so quite important is that we look at the safety of the vaccine, we look at its efficacy, and, you know, in the current context, we would look at the efficacy against the specific variants of concern, and we look at quality. And I must also mention that, you know, the elements that we look at, these are elements that across the world, as regulators, we review, and there's been harmonized standards that we're all looking at. And so those elements are very critical. And I mean, for each of these three elements, we sit with volumes of data that we look at. From a safety perspective, you know, we look at the actual product. Has it been manufactured, you know, with the products that we know that are not going to cause any, you know, serious side effects? And if there are side effects, we've got mechanisms to monitor that. From a quality perspective, we look at, has the site where these vaccines are manufactured, is it compliant and it continues to comply with good manufacturing practices? And then from an efficacy perspective, again, we look at, does it do what we expect these vaccines to do? And also there's a threshold that has been communicated that we're all aligning to as regulators, a threshold of 50% vaccine efficacy.
Just before I let you go, Doctor, there have been allegations that SAHPRA is dragging its heels where the decision of essentially ratifying these vaccines is concerned. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, and I mean, we acknowledge, you know, that as a country there is an urgency for us to have vaccines. We've seen the impact, you know, that the matters around the good manufacturing practices of the site in Ermagent, how that affected the availability of the Janssen vaccine. We had the early impact of the AstraZeneca vaccine not being effective against the variant. So, you know, we understand that this country is under pressure to have the vaccines that are required. But while that is the case, it is important that we ensure that we give the public confidence that every vaccine that we will be authorizing, we are certain that it complies with these three critical elements of safety, quality, and efficacy.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight this evening. That is Dr. Boitumelo Semeta Makokotlela, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority. Still to come.